Hey guys, hope you are well. It's been a while. It's been about, I think, 10 months since my last video. And for any of you who follow me on social media, you've seen a lot of changes have been happening. Um, I know it's been a while since I posted anything, but I've had a lot of shit going on.
Because my son is making some really bad choices right now.
But I mainly wanted to do a new series. So if you click the video, you saw in the description that I'm going to be talking about deconstruction. And as you might have guessed, I've been undergoing some deconstruction. So let me give you just a very brief background. I'm not going to get too much into details. And then I want to do this series. And I'll explain more as we go through the video. But I want to do a series on deconstruction. Mainly, I'd like to just be open and honest and authentic about my journey and what's led to this. But also, hopefully, just to provoke thought in everybody, deep thought, and maybe make you less afraid to ask questions. So with that said, there's been a lot going on in my life over the last 12 months. Really before that, but it all kind of started coming to a head over the last 12 months. My wife and I got a divorce. It was initiated by me. I was the one who decided I wanted to walk away from the marriage. And in that process, many questions were sparked for me in my journey of deciding to get a divorce, and just along the way through the divorce process. But it's really the culmination of a lot more things coming to a head that have really been accumulating in my mind for years now. So I'm definitely not going to sit down and do this all in one setting. I am going to do these more off the cuff, though. I want it to be more, just engaged. I want you to see me, for me, just processing real time. I do have some notes I'm going to run over, but these will be pretty laid back and chill. I just want to talk about my deconstruction, honestly. I want you guys to know where I'm coming from. And I realize, I may lose subscribers over this. Not may, I will lose subscribers over this. And that's okay. But like I said, more than anything else, I want to give people the freedom and I want to empower people to feel like they can ask hard questions. Oftentimes the church says you can ask hard questions, but they don't really want you to. They don't really like when you start playing around on certain ground. And so, I just want to open up the discussion and, tell you a little bit about my journey. So I don't know exactly how many videos this is going to turn out being. I've got a lot of specific topics that have led to my deconstruction. So I'll be talking about different things. But this video, I just wanted to be more of an introduction. Just what is deconstruction and a couple other thoughts I have introducing my series. So this will get you up to speed on where I am. You may have noticed I changed the channel name to Russ McCary. So not Brushed Red anymore. And I'll probably eventually remove previous videos. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to start by just defining deconstruction. And deconstruction is not like a defined term in the Webster's dictionary. It's more of a buzzword that's really become popular over the last decade, honestly. Before, historically, it was apostatizing or abandoning the faith. Deconstruction is more of a postmodern term to basically just illustrate what somebody is going through in their faith in a little bit of a different light than just making it a completely negative connotation. And I think as I go through this series, it'll make more sense as to why deconstruction is a more helpful term. There have been quite a few people deconstructing. Josh Harris is probably one of the more popular just because he was a well-known name. Some people from Hillsong, Gungor. There have been a lot of deconstructing Christians, or I think not more deconstructing Christians, more vocal deconstructing Christians, just with an internet age. And people have become more vocal about it. So I just want to talk about what it is, define it, and then headline this little series that I'm going to do. So what is religious deconstruction? Deconstruction, as far as I can tell, is essentially the process of unraveling, unwinding, and or backing out of previously held religious beliefs or dogmas. Essentially, something's triggered in the mind that reveals enough inconsistencies in that religious paradigm or worldview that instead of trying to reform the religious belief itself and just modify it, or simply move to a different but similar tribe, one is forced to completely back up far enough from the religious system to scrutinize it, evaluate it more objectively without all that comes with being committed to that view. Or, in a lot of cases, just move on from it completely to something more consistent with that individual's experience of reality. So it's basically unraveling a religious worldview. It goes without saying, no matter how you spin it, we all have biases, and the human psyche is really, really complex. But as a general definition of deconstruction, I think this is a helpful starting point for at least this conversation. So if you guys feel like you have better definitions, you're welcome to leave them in the comments, but I think that'll suffice for what deconstruction is. So secondly, nobody chooses to deconstruct. Deconstruction chooses you. The cost of deconstruction from any religious standpoint, no matter what your religious worldview is too high. Along with changing your worldview and the psychological stress that comes with your identity shifting to that degree, the process typically also involves losing many family and friends, losing your religious support community or just a support community in general, having those friends, family, and communities act out towards you, spiritually threaten you, gossip behind your back because they don't understand your new direction, existential crisis as a consequence. That's enough to make somebody go crazy, not knowing what world you're living in and what's going on and feeling your paradigm crumbling, and not really knowing who you are, having an identity crisis, because many of our deeply held religious beliefs are tied to who we are as individuals, our values. The rabbit hole goes really deep. It can cause psychological stress, confusion, and grief, and a lot of shame. So here's the reality. Humans we don't choose these things for fun. And we typically are not going to enter into deconstruction unless serious pain or life circumstances cause a crumbling of those previously held paradigms. And enough questioning of those paradigms that you've got to start breaking apart the religious view in your own mind, for the sake of sticking to your individual value of knowing what's true. Everybody wants to know the truth. Everybody's seeking the truth to some degree. And so something causes that to break apart. And for you to say, okay, I, if I don't question this, I'm doing it for all the wrong reasons. I'm doing it to avoid all the things that I just listed. And once you realize that you're just avoiding it, you can't avoid it forever, because you can't believe something to make your friends and family happy, to avoid people not liking you, to avoid the shame and consequences that come with it, because your brain eventually tells you, hey, you're doing it for that reason, and it doesn't last. So in the book Religious Refugees, Mark Karras talks about these things called splinters. That's relevant to what I'm talking about. So splinters are thoughts we have that contradict or go against the flow of our religious paradigm. To accept these splinters in our minds would be to begin rejecting the consensus of these religious systems that we're committed to. So these doubts and splinters are initially suppressed as we opt for what is most safe for us at that time. The thought of abandoning our tribes is really traumatic. It's a very traumatic experience, and something, even if only subconsciously, that we'll avoid at all costs, unless we're forced to reckon with these splinters, because there's an overwhelming amount of them pressing on our psyche. So it requires quite a few splinters to accumulate before one is willing to honestly question their worldview. But once that happens, you can't turn back. There's no turning back once you hit that tipping point. The concept of splinters helps make the point that no one wakes up one day and just chooses deconstruction. Again, the cost is simply too high. So with that in mind, I want to do a series on deconstruction. I want to work through my splinters and lead you down my path of deconstruction. I realize this is a much different direction than my channel previously. But despite that, I want to move forward honestly and authentically with where I am. This is my channel and something I created to try and help people see truth. And so the goal of this is not to persuade you to believe anything specifically. It's a little bit different than previously. I would refer to Reformed confessionalism as nothing more than just tribalism in one shape or form. But that's no longer the goal of this channel. I've changed the name of my channel to just my name, like I said. And I just want to share my journey and encourage authenticity in all my viewers, for you to pursue figuring out what you really believe. If your worldview is true, then it can stand up to the issues I raise. You have nothing to be concerned about. But if it provokes splinters in your mind that lead to deeper questioning, then maybe you get closer to the truth than you are now. None of us should believe something because we're supposed to. That's not real, genuine belief or faith. And that's something I can see myself doing, that I did for a long time. We need to believe things because we're really compelled by them. And so maybe you dig into this and you're even more compelled by what your view is now. Great. Then I helped you. If not, and it leads to more questioning, great. Maybe you're closer to the truth. So there's really nothing to lose from the conversation on deconstruction, whether it's myself, Josh Harris, anybody. I think one thing I would like to say is that instead of ousting those people in our minds so quickly, myself and others, I think it would do us well to be more curious. We want to assign meaning to why someone does something that aligns with our religious worldview, because that makes us feel safe. But what if we asked ourselves harder questions? What if we were more curious? What if we let ourselves dig in and really attempt to discover truth? It's my hope that my journey will encourage you to authentically and boldly dig into what you believe and why you believe it, and see where it takes you. So thanks for watching. I'm excited to run through this series, and I love all you guys. We'll see you soon.